Everybody, welcome back. It's another episode of the Spartan Shadows podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Chris. I'm joined with my co-hosts, Zack and Emmett, and we're back with our weekly updates, weekly episode. Not a ton of news in the MSU front this past week since we've last recorded, but we did have a couple of basketball games we wanted to recap, get you set up for the MSU Oakland game this weekend, the famed ugly sweater game between Greg Campy and Tom Izzo, plus some coaching hires for MSU football have been made official today and throughout the week, so we'll get you caught up on those as well. So thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate it as always. Zach, Emmett, how are you guys doing?
Doing great. Obviously loved the coaching hire that took place earlier today. We'll talk a little bit about that. Special teams might be possibly fixed, which I don't know if we've been able to say for the last 5+ years at this point. So that would be great to have a special teams, especially a punt line up correctly. So obviously really excited about that. But yeah, overall doing pretty good. Excited to be here. Happy to be here. How are you doing, Emmett?
I'm doing really good. Maybe this is a hot take, and maybe we can really kick things off with this, but I'll say it. The hiring of Iowa special teams coordinator for MSU, that might be the biggest move of the offseason, and even right now, with Max Bulla back in East Lansing, it might be the biggest and best move we've made in terms of hiring in coordinators. And I was extremely high on the Bulla hire, as we all know.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we all were really high on that. But no, I absolutely agree. I think this hire is absolutely huge. If you really want to talk about a game that MSU should have won that they didn't, because the special teams was the Iowa game. Turns out MSU is like, hey, you know what? That guy's pretty good. We want that guy. We've kind of seen MSU basketball do that a little bit with Trey Ford and Sanford. Maybe MSU will do that with Toledo and their point guard that just went off for 29 points against us. But I absolutely love this get. Hopefully we'll have an electric punt returner next year. I know that Braylon Collier hopefully gets an opportunity. Possibly, we don't necessarily know. But excited to have him here because he is really good. And in my opinion, he went from two of the worst special teams coordinators in the past 5 years to probably one of the best, if not the best, special teams coordinator.
Yeah.
For clarity purposes, we are talking about LeVar Woods of Iowa, just for people who don't know the name or familiar with the name. Iowa special teams coordinator is LeVar Woods. He announced he's joining after Iowa finishes their Reliao Quest Bowl. Sorry, Chris.
Yeah, no, that's what I was going to say. Officially announced today that LeVar Woods was joining the staff. He's going to be the special teams coordinator and assistant head coach. This was confirmed through multiple outlets, and it's nice to see. He's been widely considered one of the better special teams coaches in the country for quite some time now. So it's nice that MSU and Pat Fitzgerald went out and got a guy they really thought would fix a lot of the issues. While we've had great special teams players over the past few years, kickers and Jonathan Kim and, Matt Coughlin and, punters Ryan Eckley and all that. The operation as a whole has been, I guess, kind of lackluster, to say the least. And, a lot of procedural penalties, a lot of issues getting just stuff correctly executed. And so LeVar Woods will be one to clean that up. He's very detail-oriented coach. He's a very hard-nosed coach, and I think he's going to fit perfect with this staff and with Coach Fitz. You're kind of seeing a pattern with some of these coaches that are being named on the defensive side of the ball and now special teams. A lot of them are former linebackers, a lot of hard workers, a lot of tough, physical blue-collar type guys, and guys that played quite a bit in college and the pros. So you have a kind of a former player mindset and coaches that they want to go to work for. And I think that's going to be something that responds well to the Spartan program and the Spartan tradition here at MSU. So I think it's a home run hire too. Just to round it out, as much as everybody loves Max Bulla being back, and all three of us are on that list too, I think this was more of a surprise and honestly probably right up there, if not better than Max Bulla coming back. And so
yeah.
Great hire by Fitz, and I'm excited to see that. They officially did announce today, too, that Joe Rossi, James Adams are officially retained Joe Rossi will 100%, like we kind of all speculated, be the defensive coordinator still, and it sounds like he's going to coach the safeties, like we had alluded to. Max Bulla his hiring was made official. He is the co-defensive coordinator and linebackers coach. We did hire a strength and conditioning coach, Joel Welsh from Central, and fellow Chippewa there. He was a strength coach that's also been highly regarded too, and someone that's...
And Iowa.
Yeah,
and Iowa too.
Yep, so it's nice to see a new strength coach. Hopefully he can come in and fix a lot of some of the, or well, not a lot of, but some of the injury issues and some of the kind of reoccurring problems. I don't know, maybe he can work wonders on foot plantar fascia things in basketball too. Who knows? But that would be great. We also have Coach Winston De La Boudier.
I would say pretty good.
That was my best guess. He is the current defensive line coach for the Arizona Cardinals in the NFL. Someone who's also been highly regarded in coaching circles. And Coach Fitz was able to convince him to come back and be the D-lines coach at MSU. He's had previous ties to Coach Fitz. So apparently he wanted the opportunity here in East Lansing a little bit more than his NFL gig. So we'll take that. And then just to kind of round out the hires, we did officially, right before recording, and announce our GM hire. Brian Gasser from Toledo will take over as the football general manager. And then Kurt Richardson was retained as player engagement, player personnel.
Player engagement, I want to say. Player.
Okay. Yeah. I couldn't remember the exact title, but he was on the previous staff, and he's been an integral part of kind of streamlining a lot of stuff with NIL, getting a lot of the revenue share stuff in order, and he's been highly praised for his time.
Player engagement, my bad. Yeah.
And he's been highly praised for his time in East Lansing so far, so that seems like a good retainment. A couple of coaches that we expected not to come back, but officially aren't. Coach Keith Bonafilia, the running back coach, he's off to Cal, and Coach Blue Adams, the DB coach, is down at Florida State now. They picked up new jobs at other schools, so congrats to them and good luck in their new gigs. But, overall thoughts on the coaching staff hires, guys? Quick recap, just to say: Rossi, DC; Max Bulla, linebacker; James Adams, safeties coach; Joel Wells, strengths coach; LeVar Woods, special teams and assistant head coach; and then Winston De La Boudier, I'm going to get that one of these times, as D-line coach. What are your thoughts?
First thing I do want to say is congratulations and best of luck to the two coaches that were losing.
Same.
Ironically, they're both in the ACC, which is kind of ironic that one's in California. Kind of one ends up in California, the other one ends up in Florida, and they're both in the ACC, ironically enough. But no, I really like these hires. I do want to say there's a little bit of an eerie similarity between MSU and kind of the Lions a little bit, and there's a couple reasons why I say that. One of the reasons why is because what the Lions have done so well, and this is not Locked on Lions, this is not a Lions podcast whatsoever, but what the Lions have done really well is finding former players, young players that have a ton of potential to be really good. That's why I think Pat Fitzgerald has done really well here so far with these hires. Now, are all these hires young? Not necessarily. Special teams coach, I believe, is like 47, so he's like he would be young for like a head coach.
Yeah, he'll be 48 when the season rolls around next year.
Yeah, the defensive line coach, 27 years old. Like, look at what he has done to get here. You've seen that he was, I believe, the assistant head coach under PJ Fleck for a little while, which is incredible for his young age. Went to the NFL, obviously. Really young player. Max Bull is back, a really young co-defensive coordinator. It's about bringing guys that are physical, bringing guys that love football, just full-on football players. And that's one thing I've really enjoyed about a lot of these new hires is these guys are guys that understand what it's like to play physical football on the defensive side of the ball, guys that are up-and-coming coaches, guys that are young, that are hungry. Like, these are not, in my opinion, settled, like, coaches. Like, these aren't going to be coaches that are, like, just looking for kind of their next job or just, like, going from following Pat Fitzgerald. And I think that's one thing that, obviously, as a new head coach, people are always concerned about is that it's just going to be former coaches that he's had. And I think Pat Fitzgerald, while there are some connections with some of these guys, has done a really good job of going out there, finding guys that are not only proven, but also finding guys that have a ton of potential that can be former head coaches, defensive coordinators of the future, which I think if you want a really good program, that's what you're going to want to build around. You're going to lose some of these guys in the future, but it's about building around some of these young guys that have a ton of potential. I think Pat Fitzgerald has done a really good job of that so far.
Yeah, I completely agree with Zack. And to build on that point, honestly, I feel like in the future, the last couple years, even in the end of the Mel Tucker era, the Johnson Smith era, there's never really been a coach outside of Coach Hawk where we've been like, what if we lose him? Man, that's going to hurt because of how good of a coach they are.
Yeah.
And I don't think we are going to be having that feeling a lot more because, like Zack said, I would say Bulla, Woods, and De La Baudere are all candidates to be head coaches in the future. I think you are going to look back at this 2026-2027 Michigan State football roster and say that, wow, this was a loaded coaching staff, like you do with the Dolphins back when they had Campbell and a couple others on staff, for example, kind of going on that Lions analogy. Yeah, it's going to. I feel like it's going to be a mini version, or maybe even a full version of that. When you just look at the staff and look at who they've all learned under. Like Bulla learned under Saban. LeVar Woods learned under Kirk Ferentz, who was the most winning coach in Big Ten history. Mm-hmm. And then, honestly, to a small extent, like Trey Reeder, the student assistant linebacker coach. I think he's a guy who maybe some point in the future, if he's not a head coach, he's going to be a dang good recruiter. Mm-hmm. And he's already getting rave reviews and everything. So you just look at what this group has, and you have to be excited about the future because, like, De La Baudere, Woods, and I would say Bulla, they're all shoo-ins. And then you have people like Antoine Simmons is probably returning a defensive line coach, not confirmed, but we all feel very good that he's returning as an assistant defensive line coach. So you have a lot of players who are hard physical players and now have moved on to that next step in their career. And you love how this staff is coming together right now. And then you do have James Adams coming back, and he was a former linebacker at Wake Forest. So you have guys who just like hitting people. And this defense next year is not going to be, and you don't have anyone with a non-aggression pact for sure, which is something you love to see. And building on the hire of LeVar Woods, the Iowa special teams coordinator, for a second, when you look at who Woods has recruited and developed, he used to be an assistant tight ends coach, and that means he was developing people like T.J. Hawkinson, Noah Fant,
Greg Kittner,
Samuel. He might have been young. Might have been young Samuel Porta. He might have moved to special teams before then, but not sure the time frame there. But then he also was crucial in the recruitment of AJ Epinesa, who was the highest rated defensive lineman to ever commit to Iowa history. Was crucial in the recruitment of Cooper DeJean, and we all see what he's doing in the NFL and what he did as a punt returner, in addition to his abilities at corner during his time in Iowa City. There are a lot of guys, and then like Wheatgen, however you pronounce it, they're all-American punt returner this year. You just have some of the best special teams players under Woods, and he is an amazing, phenomenal recruiter. There is a lot to like about Woods, and that's why at this moment I'm higher on Woods than Bulla, but that's also because Woods has been in the game longer. Woods has been a special teams coordinator, let alone coaching. He's been a special teams coordinator since Max Bulla was still an NFL player, and he's been in the coaching game obviously a lot longer. That's why he's 47, and Bulla's in his 30s.
Yep.
I also do want to quickly say, though, you mentioned Cooper. Cooper has a really talented brother in Jack's DeJean. I think I just looked it up, 2027. He's currently committed to, or at least kind of the crystal ball is to Iowa. He's a linebacker, but like I'm sure he has some athleticism to him. I'm not saying like could this hire bring him here, but I wouldn't mind having a DeJean brother at Michigan State.
That would be fun. I wouldn't mind that. I think it would be something definitely to monitor. Did it list Woods as the primary recruiter on him though, or Woods?
Yeah, I would be really interested to see, because he's the primary recruiter, if
Yeah.
MSU offers him. Because I personally would love a DeJean at MSU. Like, put him at punt. Bring
Yeah.
me flashbacks to
Put him at
Cooper
up back.
DeJean.
Put him at up back and let him, just wreck people.
Yep.
I didn't even really think of that before you mentioned Cooper DeJean, and
I know, I
there
saw you
has to
perk
be
up when I
some.
mentioned him.
I'm like, there has to be some sort of connection here, and there seems to be one. So
Yeah, and
it
also
wouldn't
I do,
surprise me if MSU offered him.
and to build on what Zach said, also I do wish the best of luck to Coach B and to Blue Adams for their time, thank them for the time at Michigan State, and wish them the best of luck in the ACC. I wish it worked out better, but I do think that with how the staff is unfolding and everything, and I do think that running back room needs a retooling this year, and I don't know if Coach B would necessarily be on board for the same type of physical runner that, based on all of our hires, we want some strong physical runners, and outside of Brandon Tullis, I don't really know if you have much of that in East Lansing right now. So
I agree.
Maybe Clarizio, but maybe that's not totally his game. But
I think Clarizio is going to be a great gadget player, and he is a guy that I think LeVar Woods could specialize with. Him and Collier. I said that my first thought after, oh my gosh, we got the best special teams coordinator in the nation. My next thought was, buy stock in Braylon Collier. Collier is the only other person to return a punt for Michigan State this year. And, well, it was a fair catch, but Collier was a guy that Jonathan Smith called a natural punt returner. His parents talked on the podcast and said, hey, he played baseball when he was in high school. There's a reason why he's so good at tracking and fielding, because a football is so much bigger than a baseball. Yeah. So it's just second nature to Collier. And worth mentioning that Collier, one of his options when it came down to recruiting, his final three included Michigan State and Iowa. So it is worth mentioning that LeVar Woods is at least familiar with Collier's tape, because Collier was class of 24. It's very recent in memory.
Yep.
For him. Yep. So, yeah, just something worth mentioning. I think you should buy some stock in Braylon Collier right now. Assuming we're not landing a bona fide starting punt returner in the portal this year, I think Collier is a name you have to watch. And I think he'll get a touchdown on punt return next year. I'll already call my shot on December 18th.
Yeah, just to kind of put a bow on the coaching staff. Yeah, LeVar Woods and Emmett kind of alluded as to why I think it's such a good hire too, just his ties with some of the players at Iowa, and kind of give you his little coaching tree. And to Zach's point, you getting these former players. LeVar Woods, he was, highly regarded when he played at Iowa, but then his NFL career spanned for 6 seasons with, the Cardinals, Lions, Titans, and then he went back to Iowa to start coaching in 2008. He was a tight ends coach from 15 to 17, so that maybe even included George Kittle at the end, because Kittle would have been on the team for the MSU Big Ten championship game, I think. So you got guys like George Kittle spanning all the way to potentially, like Emmett said, Sam Laporta, TJ Hawkinson at tight end, and then he, has been a special teams coordinator since. Look at all the good, Cooper DeJean specifically being who he was as a punt returner, and a whole bunch of other players. Iowa's always had good punt returners, so it's exciting to see, and I am thrilled for the hire. And then just one little piece of clarification, because I did have a pronunciation in front of me, and I forgot to look at it. According to the Arizona Cardinals, so if it's wrong, blame them. It's Winston Delatiboudiere.
Okay.
Clock it to memory, everybody. So there we go. But that's the coaching
staff. Chris will be in charge of announcing all that for the entire foreseeable future of the Shadows podcast whenever we're talking about the defensive line.
Yep.
Note that in the future for when we do our position previews before 26.
That's fine.
Yep,
well,
100%.
We'll remember that. So yeah, that's the coaching staff as we know it so far. Still no official word on any offensive hirings, really. We'll obviously update you once we hear that.
One more thing. Just one more quick cleaning house thing. It is worth mentioning that Chad Wilt, the former rush ends and special teams coordinator for Michigan State, he has removed Michigan State from his X bio. Obviously, no update there yet, but just something worth mentioning and monitoring. It appeared that he is probably on his way out, which I know the fan base had a very unpopular opinion of him. Just worth mentioning, he has removed all mention of Michigan State from his bio.
Yep. And then to tie up the last bit of football news, I'll let you guys hit on it quickly. As expected, two more portal updates. One was more expected than the others. It was named last week that Alessio Milivojevic would be back at MSU. So much to the fan base's, thought process, kind of put the writing potentially on the wall for Aidan Chiles to maybe be the odd man out in the quarterback room. That was made official over the past week. He's entering the transfer portal. So best of luck to Aidan. I think kind of a raw deal. I mean, not necessarily a raw deal. I don't want to say that, but just kind of a way things just didn't work out the way we envisioned him coming over.
Yeah.
So I obviously no hard feelings. I thought Aidan was an electric asset at times here at MSU, and I'm excited to see where he lands and what he does in the future because he is very talented, and I hope it works out for him. Redo that. And one more portal note: Marcellius Pulliam has entered the transfer portal as well. So best of luck to him wherever he goes. Guys, you want to say anything about Chiles or Pulliam?
Yeah, I think you kind of said a lot that can be said. Like, best of luck to those guys. Obviously, it never worked out here, and it's not kind of something that we thought would obviously happen, and it's unfortunate, but it's just one of those things of, like, you obviously want them to succeed, and it just sucks that it didn't work here. And I think they're both going to get an opportunity someplace else. It wouldn't surprise me if a decently big program looked at Aidan Chiles. I think you can truly see the type of talent he has. I thought we saw moments this year of Aidan Chiles being great. I'm pretty sure us on this podcast, like, we're praising Aidan Chiles and just telling people, like, hey, like, just wait. Like, I'm pretty sure we were kind of, like, holding off on Aidan Chiles as long as we possibly could before, like, the Alessio got the start. But yeah, no, everything that you ever hear about Aidan Chiles is just how good of a person he is as well. Like, he seemed to be not only like a great player, a lot of talent, but like a good person. People that really liked him. Obviously made some mistakes along the way with some of the things that he said, but he was a really young football player, and it just sucks that he's not going to be here. And also you have Marcellius as well. So luck to him too. It just sucks that it happens, but that's just the day and age we kind of live in. So it's one of those things of, like, go ball out someplace else. Sorry that it didn't work out here, and it's just kind of what it is at this point, sadly.
Yeah, as far as Aidan goes, like, Aidan's going to be a kind of a story of what if, and part of that what if is just on, what if he was a touch more accurate on deep balls, because there were times at multiple games last year and this year where he's a touch more accurate, and we're talking 70-yard touchdown, we're talking 60-yard touchdown, and we're raving about, how we got back in the game. But at the same time, there's also a lot of, you can't blame it on Aidan when the offensive line let him down time and time again.
Yeah.
The running game he only had 4 games where he had a 100-yard rusher to complement him during his 20 games as a starter, which is ridiculous. Then you look at stuff like his offensive line he looked like a new quarterback for the first 4 games this year, and then the Nebraska game happened where you have a lineman standing hand on his head like, oh my gosh, I just let him get killed, instead of blocking. That kind of ended the new Aidan Chiles we saw, and I almost think it's a matter of a lack of confidence.
Agreed.
You can't trust the people that are blocking for you, so you're in 1-2 read and scramble for your life because they're coming for you. And that's not a good environment with a quarterback. And there's a reason when you talk about Alessio, the first thing you say isn't necessarily his arm strength, his touch. It's about his toughness, because he has been through a war, and he started 4 games for Michigan State. And he's already been through a war because he's just getting hammered. And he got, 12 sacks between his first 2 games? So yeah. And then Marcellius Pulliam, I do want to shout out. He was one of those guys who stepped up, became the go-to green dot Mike linebacker during the USC game after Jordan Hall was ejected for a ridiculous targeting call, and Wayne Matthews had that scary injury where he was ambulanced out. So Pulliam and Ice Moa were the guys that stepped up that game. Pulliam being the guy with the green dot. That was, I believe, his most snaps played at MSU, in addition to having a really good grade, but then got injured that game apparently and missed the final 8 games. So he ended up redshirting this year, has 2 years of eligibility left. we wish him the best of luck. Obviously, it might have been a scheme fit question because he did hit the portal the weekend after Max Bola was hired, so he might have had a sit-down meeting, saw the future and the outline of the room and what they want, and maybe it necessarily doesn't line up with the play style that Pulliam has, which that's not hate. That's what happens when you go through a coaching change.
Yeah.
Can't really hate either side for it, and that's how college football works. So also a little bit of housekeeping. Grant Calcagno also has hit the portal for Michigan State. He made his debut in the 2024 Prairie View game. Played one or two snaps, if I'm not mistaken.
So we wish them all the best, and as we hear any more portal updates, we'll let you know. Any more coaching hires on the offensive side is pretty much what's expected to come next. We don't know who, what, position, where, when, why, but as we can see, the defense and special teams is starting to fill itself out. So offensive staff will be next, and we'll let you know what we hear. Moving on to basketball, we had 2 games this past week, and then we have a game Saturday in Detroit against Oakland. Just kind of recapping the other 2 games that have been played. I'll kind of hit the scores. MSU won both. First, last Saturday, they were in Happy Valley taking on Penn State. Escaped with a 4-point win, 76-72. Was not the best game, that's for sure. There's some issues along the way, but Big Ten road game, and nice to get out with a win. Just to hit some box score notes here, Jackson Kohler had 10 points and 12 boards. Carson Cooper with 10 points and 6 boards. Divine Ugochukwu had the game of his Spartan career with 20.
In his first start?
Yeah, in his first start. Yep, he took over as the starting 2 guard. And really kind of... put some points to the board there. So good stuff from them. Kurd Tang did add 8 points in 12 minutes played. So that was the first game. And then a Tuesday at the Breslin a couple days ago, Toledo was in town. Spartans won 92-69. For some box score notes, we have Kohler with 16 points, 13 boards. Jeremy Fears had 15, 8 assists. Cohen Carr had 14 points. Cooper had 8 points and 9 boards. Kurt Tang had 14. And the Walton twins got in the game. Each had 3 points. That's a fun note. But yeah, that's kind of how the week went in basketball so far. The Spartans officially sit at 10-1. Have Oakland, like I said, coming up, and then that game tips at noon on Saturday at Little Caesars Arena. Emmett will be in location for that one. And that, of course, is continuing our tradition of the Oakland series, I guess, that we're starting to do every year now. Greg Campy versus Tom Izzo, good friends. And hopefully some very ugly Christmas sweaters to be had.
Tom Izzo confirmed for the first time he bought them, actually.
Yeah,
he bought them for the first time in the Campy Izzo rivalry, if you want to call it that. The friendly, very friendly.
Yep, and it's always fun to see. Tom Izzo with a Grinch sweatshirt a couple years ago out of nowhere just was perfect.
Last year, you mean?
Was that last year?
Yeah, it was last year.
Just great.
Yeah, technical too.
Yeah, great stuff all around. So hopefully a little bit more of that. But guys, your thoughts on the 2 games at hand, and then we'll break down Oakland before we get out of there.
I was trying to decide which route I wanted to take, if I wanted to be positive on here or if I wanted to go the negative route.
You already know what route I'm taking.
Oh, I already probably know the route you're taking. I'm sure we'll probably agree with the same type of route. Were these great games? No. Great first half against Divine
I think you're reading my outline, excuse me.
But
yeah, you are.
How do I hate this game? I am going to go a little bit negative here, though, because I think what these 2 games showed is that the 2 positions still needs to be figured out, and Divine is not the answer there. And there's a reason why I'm going to say that. That might be opposed to what happened at Penn State. You might hear me say what I said at Penn State and said, well, Divine started at the 2. He played great, scored 20-plus points. I understand that. But the bigger issue is who you have behind Jeremy Fears handling the ball if Divine Ugochukwu is playing the 2. And I don't want to go into him, and I'm not going to. but in my opinion, you cannot have Denim Wojcik playing 13 minutes in a Big Ten game if you want to compete for a championship. You just can't afford to. And unfortunately, I think that's going to put Izzo into a weird spot because he's going to have to make a decision of who he's going to have at the 2. Because I think if MSU wants to achieve what it's going to achieve, Izzo's either going to pull off the greatest magic trick we've ever seen and had Denim Wojcik playing 10, 13 minutes and this team wins the Big Ten. And if people want to talk about last year being impressive, in my opinion, I feel bad because I think Denim Wojcik practices hard, but he's not a guy that's going to be your point guard 2 in a championship team. I am sorry. He's just not. And I feel awful saying that because I feel like I'm attacking him as a player, and I'm not. It's just you need to figure out what you're going to do at the 2 position. I would love to see Trey Fort play more. I understand that's a little bit maybe opposed to what some people say. I don't know what Trey Fort did to Tom Izzo.
I know what he did. He didn't play defense. He didn't play defense against Izzo in practice.
Yeah.
Izzo would score on him.
Yeah, he needs to fix that. But either a Jordan Scott or Kurt Tang has to be more minutes there, in my opinion. But Jackson Kohler, fantastic as always. The quietest double-doubles I've ever seen in my life. Jeremy Fears played a little better against Toledo, a little bit. Wasn't great against Penn State. Carson Cooper's doing Carson Cooper type stuff. Cohen Carr was a little bit better against Toledo. You're 2-0, and I don't think you played very well. So I will take that.
Yeah.
I'm glad you did not read the final point that I had in all uppercase, size 72 font. Hit your layups.
Yeah, that's true.
Because that's been the story of the last 2 games. Well, the last 3 games, including Duke. The Spartans have the ability to get to the rim, but they don't have the touch for any of their layups right now is the problem. I mean, I remember watching a sequence. MSU out-rebounded Toledo by 30. And that's because I would say 15 of those rebounds were me-bounds. Because you had the full Angel Reese going. It was just throw it, hit the back of the rim, bounce back to you. Throw it, hit the back of the rim, bounce back to you. I think we had 2 or 3 times where it got to 4th and 5th chance points in the same possession. And half the time, MSU didn't even come away with points on those. And there's a reason why they scored 58 in the first half alone and didn't finish with 100 against Toledo. Because the Spartans just could not bury the ball, and it was very sloppy play in the second half. You had a lot of times the ball was getting punched out. Toledo, despite losing by nearly 30 points, they only had 4 turnovers the whole game. Meanwhile, Cohen Carr had 4 turnovers in that game himself. Quiet shot, one of the best quiet games we saw in a while was, I would say, Jesse McCulloch's play against Toledo. He had 7 points, 8 boards, and that was with him consistently being subbed around and playing the 4, playing the 5, just because of how Izzo it almost seemed like a test session at the end because no lineups were working efficiently. So you just started subbing people in. And to build to Zack's point, Wojcik, great guy, great locker room guy from everything I've saw and heard. But at the same time, there's a lot like the Foster Lawyer situation we had, where good guy, but at the end of the day, you cannot play him a ton of meaningful minutes. Because Wojcik is just not at the same level that he's not even, I know it's front court versus back court and all, but he's not even at the same level Shimon Zapawa was at last year. Yeah. And Wojcik, he's had some good moments. He's played some good defense this year. I remember who was it, Sturzer. He basically put in a blender for the 4 minutes in a row. He put Sturzer of Iowa in a blender. But he's not, I don't think he's a guy that consistently can do that night in, night out. And he can't consistently he's going to have to if he wants to stay in this rotation, he has to consistently have the best 4 minutes, 5 minutes of his life just to let Fears catch a breath. And you're going to have Fears be in condition to play 35, 36 minutes a game. And that you're going to have the Cassius Winston treatment on Fears. And I mean, the Cassius Winston era, when he was doing that, was his junior and senior years, which is his third and fourth years on campus. Fears is in his third year, so he might have to take that step up and take that notch that conditioning up one more. Yeah. Just to really, if Michigan State wants to be serious contender this year. And to build on Zach's point again, Jordan Scott is a guy who I think this was the Toledo game was the first time in a while where I don't have him marked down as much for quietly having those good effort hustle plays. And maybe that's just because usually the effort hustle plays where he's the one getting that rebound and stuff was not needed as much because our bigs were dominating and eating. You didn't have the ball coming loose out to where Scott was in more that wing area. That wing and mid-range area is usually where Scott was thriving. You didn't have the ball get that far because you just saw Jackson Kohler, Carson Cooper, and Jesse McCulloch. I believe if you combine their stat lines, they out-rebound Toledo by 5. So take that how you will. When you're more than 5, and Cam Ward too, I think he had at least 6 rebounds too. So you combine those guys and they easily out-rebound Toledo. So you didn't need your 2-3 guard/forward area with Scott. You didn't need that. And I do think you saw the two kind of work with Divine. Like with Divine, obviously it worked very well for Penn State, but you have a 1 playing the 2 in that situation just because Divine, it's a mix of being more the leader, which is part of why Denham is getting that, because he's a senior, he's a coach's son. He has seen his entire life the leadership and demand that you need, which is part of why he's the backup point guard right now, is because he can have that voice in the huddle. And I do think the Spartans need to do some soul searching and have Divine find that voice in the huddle. Because if you can have him be a 2 and sub him out early like you did in the Toledo game, have Kurtang come in, eat some minutes at the 2 to give Divine a rest, so then Fierce can come out. I think you need to see if you can continue doing that, or start Kurtang and have Divine be the 6th man off the bench. I think there is going to be some tinkering with the lineups, and unless Denham Wojcik takes a huge step up to being, like, for example, when you look at the Powell, for example, one of his best games was right after Christmas break. It was the Ohio State game. In the beginning of January. If you can have Wojcik take that step to there, I know, once again, backcourt, frontcourt, but that's what you're going to need to see, a similar style, just taking that step up and being really adapted to Big Ten play if you want to actually play him meaningful minutes and not be a detriment to the Spartans. Sorry for the harsh language, but that's what it is. At the end of the day, it's a championship program with championship expectations, and Wojcik is not a guy who will be meeting those right now.
Well, and there is a reason this roster was constructed the way it was, and I understand with Caleb Glenn being hurt, that changes some things, but Divine Ugochukwu was brought in to be the backup point guard. He was not brought in to be the starting 2 guard. And so if you have somebody who can step up and take those starting 2 guard minutes, that allows Divine to rotate more off the bench and give Fears the, rest breather, whatever he needs. And it just allows things to flow a little bit more. And if you want to rotate him in a little bit at the 2 guard, then fine, you can do that. But it just gives you more options, and it's something that does need to be addressed, whether it's Trey Fort getting more minutes, if it's Jordan Scott stepping up, whatever. But that does need to be found out. Maybe we can go find a European and transfer halfway in the year like some other programs are doing. But it's frustrating to see, and just to agree also with the layups point. I'll shout out Emmett from the pod or the post game presser. Tom Izzo had a quote that in the Toledo game, it was a pretty damn good first half. If Kohler makes a pair of layups, it might have been the best first half in history here, which.
Talking about Kohler's game, because Kohler had a double-double at half.
Right, and just to retweet and just to kind of hammer down the layup point, Jackson's dad, Jeff, retweeted that and said this goes on a shirt, and then was talking about playing Jackson one-on-one again afterwards to help out. So it's fun on social media, of course, but it drives a point home where, hey, make some layups. It's been an issue over multiple games now. It needs to be addressed. Going back to the Duke game, like you guys mentioned, I thought there could have been a couple easier baskets that could have been made that might have made the difference in us, beating Duke potentially. So, but hey, at the end of the day, you are 10-1. You're going into your last game before the holiday break, which again, Saturday noon, Oakland. Let's go take care of business there and maybe try to end 2025 with a one-loss team and getting into the bulk of the Big Ten play. So, just a real quick preview Oakland a little bit. ESPN matchup predictor has it at a 95% chance for an MSU win. Oakland is 6-6 currently, but they are 2-0 in the Horizon League. Obviously, it's a Greg Kampe coach team, so it's going to be a well-coached team. They're averaging about 81 points a game or 84 points a game, but also giving up about 84 points a game. I think it's a game where MSU can hopefully be physical enough down low and dominate the glass, and then set the offense up accordingly. And I hate to sound like a broken record, but this team's built so well to do the MSU old defend, rebound, run. And when you do that, good things happen for MSU. I think they have a chance to do that pretty well against Oakland, and hopefully that allows things to translate the way we need them to.
It's gonna be Kampe's zone. It's gonna be Kampe's dumb little zone, as said by Izzo. That's gonna give them fits.
Wonky zone, yeah.
Yeah. That's the reason Izzo puts this, well, not the only reason, but that's one of the reasons Tom Izzo puts this game on the schedule each year, because we can't, for some reason, figure out zones ever. So why not get a little bit more practice at it before we need to?
Well, no one runs the Kampe zone. Besides,
I was just gonna say it's not even your typical zone; it's a wonky zone. Like even Izzo has specifically said that
it's disgusting, brutal basketball that you say, "God, I hate it." You love it, but you hate it.
Kampe even specifically has said like it's a wonky zone. Like he knows what he is doing. Like he understands this. But speaking a little bit about absolutely. But speaking a little bit, I know you wanted to preview Oakland real quick. I've always been a really big fan of Kampe. I've always really kind of enjoyed Oakland, and this is a team that I actually enjoy quite a bit. This is a team offensively that I think is one of the best he's had in a while. Defensively, he even said after their last win that they won the game because of the defense, and it's probably not going to be something that he says very often. But this is a team that there's multiple guys on this team that I actually really, really like. And one of the first guys is Brody Robinson. He is a guy that has kind of a little bit of an interesting story a little bit. I won't go into too much detail, but he was actually recruited by Oakland. And he didn't end up at Oakland originally, didn't end up under Kampe, but now he's at Oakland. And he's been really, really good. This year. He's a guy that has struggled a little bit from the free throw line, but he's a guy that averages 37% from 3, 16 points a game. He is a little bit smaller, 5'11", but he's kind of one of the guys that truly gets this offense going, especially at the point guard position. I also like Isaac Garrett as well. He's kind of like their center of this team. Like he's the 4 or 5, really him. And I always mess up his name. Taboo, I think Taburo is, I believe, how you pronounce it. Him and Isaac are like the 4 and 5 of this team. Taburo is, I think, the preseason player of the year for Oakland. He struggled last game, but Isaac, he's a transfer from Snow College, a JUCO college. I really, really like his game. I think he's a guy that has done a really good job offensively this year. Do I think this is an Oakland team that has a chance to win the Horizon? Absolutely. I honestly do. I do think they did lose Naheem Massar for the year. It sounds like he is one of the best shooters of this Oakland team, so that's obviously a difficult loss. So that's going to be hard to come back from. But I actually really like this Oakland team. I think this Oakland team is really fun. I think this Oakland team is much better than the team that played against Michigan early on. But yeah, they play a fun brand of basketball, and you're not going to necessarily love watching them defensively, but I think offensively, at least for a majority of the year, they're going to be pretty fun. I just feel like they're going to struggle in this game.
Do we want to do any predictions for it? Sorry,
I was going to just say, no, you're good. Worth noting that they actually did play Toledo earlier this month, and it was a 97 barn burner. Oakland wound up on top. Just worth mentioning that. Well, we're on that topic because Toledo, obviously, they did not get to play their own brand of basketball against Michigan State just completely out physicaled, but Oakland, they were able to put up points just like MSU was able to put up points. Oakland even ended up throwing even more on the board, so just something to monitor.
Yeah, I think that sums it up. Do we want to do predictions before we take off, or are we good there? I think we're all probably in agreement. I guess I won't speak for you guys. I think MSU is going to win.
They have every year of the rivalry. Knock on wood. Hope it continues.
Yeah. I'll give it a let's go 82 to 68.
Give me, I would say, to
don't you say
85. Wow. Okay. 67 to make that 67 to 85 just for Chris's amusement. I would say leading scorer we've seen in years past. It's usually ended up being one of those 4 or 5 types who's ended up being your leading scorer. So I'll say the Kohler Bear continues his reign of dominance and gets a double-double. And give me Kohler 22 points.
I'm going 83-65.
You want a little bit of an X Factor prediction? I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I could see Jeremy Fears flirting with triple-double territory in this game. Just saying. So
triple-double is crazy.
Yep.
I was just going to say that is a crazy,
I said bold.
When was the last time MSU had
you said X Factor, sir. You said X
Sorry,
Factor.
A bolder X Factor type take performance. When was the last time MSU had a triple-double? That's a good question. When was that? I couldn't even tell you, and I don't know where to look that up, and I don't want to bore our listeners with that. So
MSU's media guide.
Yeah. Emmett, while you were at Little Caesars on Saturday.
Denzel Valentine, 2015.
Yeah, let's say they usually print last time this happened in the media guide, and the LCA staff, shout out them, they always print out last time X happened.
2015 Denzel Valentine happened twice. Kansas when he had 29, 12, and 12. And then 9 days later, Boston College, 29 points, 11 rebounds, 10 assists. So
yeah,
it's Denzel Valentine, the last triple-double.
Shout out Boston College, the worst Power 5 university in athletics.
I knew he was the last one I could think of that got one, but I didn't know if somebody more recently. So
I know during the 2024 game, or like 2023-2024 season, Tyson Walker at halftime was on pace to triple-double, but then only got 1 steal the rest of the game because he had 5 steals at half.
Well, steals is even more ridiculous, but
yeah, it was a ludicrous game. It felt like Tyson Walker was getting the turnovers for touchdowns.
Yeah,
every time I looked, that was my first game I covered in the Brethren. I remember that.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we've kept these fine people long enough. We went way longer than we intended to. It's because Zach was excited that it should have been a short episode. So.
As always.
It should have been.
But hey, hopefully you guys enjoyed us yappering. I will trim it down the best I can. We appreciate everybody for tuning in. And as always, like, share, comment, all the fun stuff. It's been a fun few weeks since football season's ended, getting you guys all this extra content. We're really starting to grow in a lot of places for social media engagement and YouTube clicks and stuff. So we really appreciate it. Keep it going. We'll get out more content as we can. Follow us on Twitter for the most up-to-date updates, because that's the easiest one. Emmett will, of course, have his feed with live updates during the game on Saturday, and then we'll post our usual post-game stuff as soon as we can. So hopefully fairly quickly after the game before karaoke night starts. So, but on that note, appreciate everybody for tuning in. You guys, anything else you want to add? All right.
Excited for Saturday.
Have a great week, and go green.
Go white.